Hi, my name is Blair Hartley, and I'm the Senior Director of Philanthropy with Film at Lincoln Center. Along with our friends at Focus Feature, we are thrilled to present Profile, directed and co-written by Timur Bekmambetov and starring Valene Kane and Shazad Latif. All of us at Film at Lincoln Center are delighted to have Timur, Valene, and Shazad here for a conversation moderated by Alison Willmore, film critic at Vulture and New York Magazine. But before we get started, we must thank American Airlines, the official airline of Film at Lincoln Center. And of course, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your incredible support of the organization. We just couldn't do it without you. Also, we wanted to let you know that after a 5-month run in our virtual cinema, The World of Wong Kar-wai opens in our physical theaters on May 14th. Plus, we have the Human Rights Watch Film Festival returning online starting May 19th, and a new edition of Open Roads, New Italian Cinema in the virtual cinema on May 28th. And now I'm happy to turn it over to Alison.
Thank you. After the year we've had, I feel like a movie that takes place entirely on a device kind of plays differently. We spend a lot of time living lives just staring at devices and people talking on them. Timur, I wanted to start by, Profile takes place entirely on a device, in this case, on the main character Amy's laptop. And it's a format that you've been a real pioneer and proponent of, and you've called Screenlife. And you've also created tools to allow other filmmakers to kind of make these kind of films. You've produced the horror film Unfriended, the thriller Searching. You have Romeo and Juliet, the modern day take on the Shakespeare play that's entirely on devices. But Profile is the first Screenlife film you've directed yourself. And I was wondering what led you in this particular case to want to direct and also to make a film. In this case, it's about something I would say that has the kind of most real world urgency and kind of gravity in terms of dealing with ISIS and online radicalization. What led you to want to kind of tell a Screenlife style take on that?
Probably curiosity. I was trying to experiment and to try to tell story very realistic, very grounded, and use all the new ideas for Screenlife, like, for example, how to allow actor to be a cameraman and how it will affect the acting process, or like, for example, if the actor can be like a music editor and just try to play songs according with the mood of the scene, and many other ideas I couldn't do if I'm not directing, because it's new things, it's a risky, and director is kind of like an author, and I need to take responsibility and try things nobody never done before. It's why I decided to go myself, just to experiment with new ideas.
This has to be a really unusual experience as an actor. Can you tell me a bit about, like, how was this role and this project described to you, and what were your reactions when you were first told about how it would work?
I think, at the very, very, very beginning of the casting process, I was just sent an email from my agent as normal with like a casting for a film, but Timur was attached and it was an improvised film. And so for me, like, that was such a pull, because I come from an improvisation background, and it's so rare that you get to like experiment with improvisation in feature films these days. And I obviously really wanted the luxury of working with an author like Timur. But then as the casting process went on, obviously I found out that it was from Anna's book. So I read the book. And then I think like Screenlife kept being like battered back and forth. And I was like, yeah, sure. Screenlife, sure. But I didn't really know what it meant. And then obviously when I booked the role, I was told to watch Unfriended. And I was like, oh. And I think like a part of me was like, I'm just going to be a talking head. I don't know if you know, Alan Bennett has these talking head monologues. And I genuinely didn't know how we would be able to tell the story, because I felt like the story was so, it hung on the balance of, me and Shazad having this really intricate and intense relationship. And I was like, how can you manufacture that through a screen? But I think that we did. I think that we did.
Shazad, tell me a bit about how were you were both constantly on screen together, but I don't know if you're ever sharing a frame in the movie. Were you able to work together and rehearse together at all first? You shot a lot of the movie in 2 separate locations, is that right?
Yeah, so we had a really intense, I think it was about a week. How long were we in the hotel? About a week? A few days?
I think it was longer.
We were in Green Park in this lovely hotel called the Athenaeum, and we were in this sort of dark, room at the top of the hotel, and just spent a whole intense time just sort of breaking down the script and, asking the questions of each other, figuring out our characters, changing it to London, doing all this, and just figuring it all out. And then after that week, we shot the whole film in 9 days, almost the same amount of time as the rehearsal. And I flew off to Cyprus after 3 days in Hackney, in Bethnal Green, a little internet cafe, and that was it. And it was me, a makeup lady, and a beard lady, and we were off on the plane. And then we would just film everything live. It was done just like that. But it was so intense and so, the most collaborative film experience I've ever had. And that's, down to Timur and Olga and everyone we worked with, and just giving us the confidence to do what we did. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. But yeah, we got to work together and sort of figure out, and then it was just on the screen. So it felt very real to how they would have experienced it. And that's what we wanted to, capture.
And he was in Cyprus, if you remember.
It was in Cyprus. Yeah. Which was great.
And that was good, actually, in terms of as an actor, normally you're normally on the same set. So you finish at lunch and you go and have lunch together and you all talk about it. But obviously he was so far away, but we were always making, it was just us two. So it'd be 9 to 1, it would be us on Skype, and then we'd go and he was having fun in Cyprus and I was, with Timur in London having lunch, and then you'd go back, but you could really feel the separation. So it was really easy to distinguish between character and actor, which isn't, sometimes you have to work harder at that, but because we were so far away, it was easy. It felt easier.
Yeah, I remember. It was unbelievably difficult to organize, because we had 3 or even 4 locations, 4 sets ready to go. And remember, we shot Shazad was in Cyprus, we were in Cockney, and there was a studio in Soho, and your sister was on the bus somewhere in Oxford Street. And we shot it in real, it was a real communication between actors in different locations, and it's happening at the same time. They call each other. It was a very unusual process.
I know that not all of these films have been made necessarily shot on the devices that the characters are using. Timur, were you committed from the beginning to say this was going to be shot on laptops and cell phones?
Yeah. Usually we have a special a GoPro thumb camera on on top of the computer, just in case it give us more data. But I believe that the web cameras in today's so good that you don't really need other stuff, because we were trying to recreate this aesthetic of the Screenlife. By the way, just one, we will forget about it. We had one scene. Because I had a stupid idea that the whole movie will be Screenlife, and then at the end there'll be one scene we will shoot with the traditional way with the cameras. And it was last day. We had a great restaurant somewhere in London, and there was cameras and dolly, whatever, all traditional tools. And we Valene, we were rehearsing there, and suddenly I just felt that it was so boring. Like it's so boring to shoot because what you do, like I'm looking in the camera and I see there is a background and I think, oh, we should move a little bit right, a little bit left, just to have a better defocus. And it's so old-fashioned. There's all these problems. I've done it so many times, and it's so because we had such a interesting questions every minute when we shot Screenlife movie, and then suddenly there was this day with the traditional filmmaking was very like boring, and I in middle of the day I said stop. We cut this scene. I'm not going to use this in the movie. We'll stay online whole movie. So
I had totally forgotten that.
Yes.
So, Valene, it's you are doing a lot of the manipulation of what's happening on the screen as well, right? How much of that? I mean, one thing I love about the film and these films is that you get insights into the character by like what she's typing on screen and then deleting. Can you tell me a bit about kind of like developing that part of the language?
I think that's what was so exciting about it, is particularly as we got into the post with Timur. It was like we were really trying to develop this new language, which was this subtext that you're trying to get that you cannot get because you're not, the only time that you're watching Amy's face is if she's making a call or a Skype. And so it's like, how do you get the subtext when you can't see her face? And so it was about developing that language of typing, deleting. Does she click on the send? Does she, go to the FaceTime? And that was really interesting because we got to do it and then we would watch it in real time and, we were able to edit it together and go, oh, that doesn't work. Let's try it again. Let's try something better. And you don't have the luxury of doing that with normal filmmaking. You just have what you have in the can. And if my reaction wasn't interesting enough, it's so hard to shoot a more interesting reaction. So it was so good that you had the luxury of re-editing emotion. But I mean, a lot of it was shot real time. So when I was filming with Shazad, I would also be like, trying to do all the other things, which were really difficult. But I think that the more, when you're doing them 12 hours a day, you get practice at it. But it was definitely a new form for sure. Being your own rig, your own DOP, trying to find your light, having Timur go a little bit left, a little bit left, a little bit left. It was very, it was really original and unique.
Shazad, I read somewhere that some of the times when you would call and the reception would be bad or be breaking up, that was just like the real call. Is that accurate?
Well, I remember Timur saying, he said, look, if that happens, it's part of it. It adds to and it adds to the sort of, it just adds to everything about it, the suspense and the thriller nature of it, and just makes it more real. And yeah, I mean, I was in the middle of the field somewhere, sometimes, so the connection would be bad, we'd lose it, we have to wait, set up again, but that's kind of made it exciting,
So this film is based on a book by a French journalist whose name is Anna Aurel, or at least that's the pseudonym. She's kind of been in hiding. How closely, Timur, does the film follow the book? It's obviously set in the UK. It's not in France, but like, at what point are you following really closely to the kind of texts that were there, and what point does it start to diverge?
First of all, we're lucky that we were dealing with the real story and great book where it inspired us. It was a source of inspiration, and so also we should talk a lot about Olga, my partner, my producing partner and co-writer, and she was like a very important part of this project, because she researched a lot about ISIS. I'm sure she knew more than, probably her computer and she is on every list of NSA and MI5, whatever, because she was researching during a year, and we had a much more detail than it's even in a book, because like about detail, like about cats, for example. Yeah, the story about fighters like being in love with the cats, and all this 26 days process. Like there was a lot of details we added, we researched and we added. But the book was a core, and it was very, very. We were trying to get what really happened at that days with Anna, because it was really important for me. And I remember I have a video, Valene, you talking to Anna on Skype just day before shooting. I think I called Anna, and Valene had a chance to talk to her on Skype. It was two Emmys talking to each other. We were trying to be as close as possible. I mean, to the tone of the book, and to the core of the character, just to be. But there is a lot of stuff we created, of course, for sure.
Valene, you guide this character on like a real journey. She begins like alarmist to the point where she actually has a kind of what she acknowledges as a racist reaction to her racist freak out at her coworker when she learns he's of Syrian descent. And by the end, she's on the verge of like traveling to Syria, throwing everything away and traveling to Syria herself. Can you tell me a bit about kind of navigating this character as like kind of, that's like, you know, a real turn, but I think you see it a lot in also being like a lot of people who are vulnerable online. She's a little lost. How did you see her personal life and also kind of like making her more open to maybe, you know, following this to extreme places?
I think, you know, when we meet her, she's kind of like at that middling point in your 30s where things haven't quite worked out the way that she thought that they might have. You know, she's in a relationship that she's kind of like middling about. Her career hasn't quite gone the way she wanted to. She wants to live in a better apartment. And I think she's super ambitious, and she really, really wants a great story, and she wants to make a name for herself. And I think when she goes into this story, it really is about uncovering a truth. And I think that's, you know, her guiding star. But I think she's an outsider, and I think she feels on the outside of something. And I think when she meets Bilal, that resonates within him, because I think he's also a bit of an outsider, and they come from the same place. And I think her ambition then obviously seeps into reckless behavior. And I think it's really murky for a really long time, because I think as much as she feels like she's following a story, she's actually also kind of falling in love. And, you know, and I think that part of it was key for me, in the belief that she has to feel like she does fall in love a tiny bit. And that's why she loses her mind so much, rather than just, you know, insane ambition. But I think like when we see that, we see the danger of being online, because you can be anonymous in a way. And then obviously she's buys the ticket, who's going to go see him. So there's a lack of anonymity there. But yeah, I think that there was something about the love they experienced, Shazad. I think that he fell in love with her a little bit too. I think they were both catfishing each other, and the lines got really blurred, you know, and then it got really dark. And I think from the moment that you sensed that you were losing me a little bit, that's when you got more aggressive, and that's when we pulled away.
Yeah, you know, Shazad, it's funny, like I feel like this was the kind of like very kind of dark global context aside, it really does feel like a movie about two people catfishing each other. They're, you know, putting on the show for each other online. We get to see a lot into like Amy's life because we are on her laptop. Like, how much did you kind of build out a backstory and life for Abu Bilal to inform your performance that, you know, we didn't get to see?
I think, well, first of all, we were starting from their Skype conversation, so you could see, you know, that was a great starting point of how they behaved towards each other, what they said. And then And then, you know, I got to see a couple of videos of him, you know, see how this guy holds himself. And then we sort of improvised, and Timur let us, you know, do so much with that. And me and Valene spoke so much about, you know, moving it to London. And then Timur said, you know, we wanted to write a few other scenes about him, maybe when, you know, the candy shop scene, or, you know, giving him a little bit of humanity and a little bit of backstory. So it felt, you know, so it did feel like he would sort of miss home maybe. So yeah, even though they're catfishing each other, it does feel like, hold on, there is some sense of home. And, you know, there's a reason he went out there in the first place. We don't see any of that, but it's nice to know that there might be something just to give it that extra layer. So yeah.
Timur, you know, this is a film that is, you know, kind of fueled by this investigation into ISIS recruitment. But I do feel like it feels like a kind of general cautionary tale about how we connect to other people online. And I'm curious about your feelings there. You know, I think what really strikes me watching the movie is like, this is a movie about two people who understand very well how to like fool someone or mislead someone else online, but they also seem to take everything that they're being told by the other person at face value. So, you know, you don't necessarily apply those lessons to your own interactions online.
Yeah. Of course, this movie is for me. It was not about ISIS. It was not about terrorism. It was a little bit about journalism, but mostly it's a movie about loneliness. How lonely we are. How much we want to be open, to have a real connections, to have a real relationship with the people, and how much we're missing, to understand, just to be missing meaningful life, like and I think for me it was a story about the lonely woman in London and lonely man in Syria, and they play with each other this horrible game and in cheating each other, but at the same time, because they're not actors, they never went through the acting school. They must do it in real, you know, to be effective. For her to get information, she must really fall in love, otherwise he will catch her. And for him to be able to recruit the girl, he must fall in love with her too, because they're not lying. I mean, it's a kind of scary game. People playing love, you know, and I think we do it for different reasons, not to investigate or not to recruit, but in everyday. In digital world, we do similar things. We pretend we're trying to be somebody else. We're trying to protect yourself. It's about Screenlife. This is a movie about our new form of living, you know, and it's what we must. We as a filmmakers, as storytellers, we must focus on it, because we spend so much time in this new world, digital. We really, an audience, we really want to understand the meaning of everything. New relationship, new like what does it mean personality? What does it mean society? What does it mean like a freedom and country and life and death, good and evil? Like all these terms are exist in digital world, but they're different. And the only way to understand this new world is to tell good stories, emotional stories. It's what we were trying to do. Sorry for such a long
I guess, you know, to that point about journalism, I guess, Valene, can you speak a bit to like playing a character who feels like she is out to get the story and she is ambitious, but also you sense her always kind of getting pushed. Like her relationship with her editor is very interesting in that, like, you know, they're always managing each other. Do you think that this character kind of knows what kind of story she wants, or is getting pushed to like a bit sensationalistic, like more and more?
I don't think she knows what story she wants at all. I think that she's kind of a little bit desperate at the beginning to get any story. And she's doing lots of different research and, you know, going down lots of different avenues. And then she just happens, just like Anna did, to literally add a friend who starts speaking to her, and he happens to be, you know, an ISIS recruiter. And so she's like, oh my God, I have stumbled across something insane and I'm going to just do it. And I think that there's definitely a drug element to her at the beginning, where she's like a hungry dog, just like, you know, she's so searching, like Olga, our producer, was, you know, she had done so much research. Any question I had, she was like, I have a folder for you. And so it was really easy to sort of like look at all of the research that Olga had done, and how scarily easy it is to actually, you know, if you do create these fake profiles, to go undercover and find, you know, find these stories. I mean, particularly back then. So I don't think, no, she's ambitious, but she's ambitious for success. I don't think for this particular story. And then she is like a dog with a bone for Bilal.
Their film and television has tended to kind of like, in portraying jihadists, often just make them very flat. Like, it's easier, I think, for a lot of kind of like media to kind of see them as like just one-note villains. And Abu Bilal is very dimensional. Like, he's kind of goofy, he's extremely online, he loves emojis and, you know, cats. He has pathos and he's a credible heartthrob. Shazad, can you speak a bit? So you have to believe that, right? You have to believe like that, you know, despite knowing better, this woman says it gets sucked in. I think, like, can you speak a bit to like humanizing someone like that without softening them? You know, there is no doubt at the end there that you do not like feel like he's in need of rescue. You know, he's doing some terrible things, but at the same time, you understand him much more, as much as you can believe what's being said, as like a very dimensional character.
I think with these kind of people, it's very easy for them to switch between just doing good and bad things. They can have fun like any other human, but then they can still do what, you know, they do. But I think it was, key just to have a rounded, the story makes way more sense if there is this real relationship between them, you know, if they're cooking together. But these are all real things. These are when we didn't, you know, again, Olga pulled out a file. Oh, look, they cook with the, you know, cooking would, you know, bond you, or the cats makes girls fall in love with that, you know, all these things that and then we just made up a bit around that story. So it just all went to a rounded story, because if it was just a 2D sort of ISIS recruiter, I think it'd be a very crap film, really. But we didn't do it, hopefully.
All right, well, we're almost out of time, but Timur, I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about what's next for you with Screenlife. I know you have a lot of projects in the works using this language.
Yes, there's a lot of movies in production, and the new movie with Ice Cube and Eva Longoria will be finished soon and released by Universal. But during our conversation, I had a crazy idea what we can do next. We can do the spin-off of Profile from his computer, from Bilal's desktop. Exactly the same story, but what's happened with him. Do you know, Shazad, what I mean?
Yeah, no, I remember you mentioned it before. Yeah, that's
It's just this. It could be an interesting, like a spin-off. I don't know, a spin-off or what is this?
Yeah.
I think spin-off to be on his computer.
I love that, a companion piece from the other side. I think that's amazing.
Because I'm really curious what's happened with him between calls and between their contacts.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And Profile is now in actual real life theaters, so you can go see it, not just.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.